Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the big picture, algorithmic bias. All right, so let's dive right into this. So first of all, let's ask this question: what is algorithmic bias? So just like in a good definition, I guess, that we could start with is that algorithmic bias occurs when a computing innovation systematically discriminates against certain individuals or groups and creates unfair outcomes for some and favorable outcomes for others. So essentially, algorithmic bias, which is also called machine learning bias or AI bias, is a phenomenon that occurs in search engine results, social media platforms, product search results, news feeds, credit ratings, translation tools, computer vision software, job recruiting programs, online ad targeting systems, and a whole lot of other things. Computing innovations can raise legal and ethical concerns when the development of algorithms includes bias. Now, we think of computers and computing innovations as neutral, right? So, how could they be biased? Well, the answer is that computing innovations are developed by people. And people, whether or not they want to admit it, have biases. Some may be hidden and some may be blatant. Without the conscious effort to eliminate bias during the development process, it would not be uncommon for some type of discrimination to be embedded in a software tool. Results of algorithmic bias can perpetuate existing social biases and exclude certain genders or racial or ethnic groups from opportunities. So we want to look at a few examples. Just for one example, back in the 1980s, before everyone had a computer on their hand or on their wrist, people would use a travel agent to help them book flights and hotels for travel. I know, that was the old days. There were two popular reservation systems that were used, Sabre and Apollo, owned by American and United. Sabre was owned by American and Apollo was owned by United. Which airline do you think the system would suggest first to book? Yep, American for Sabre and United for Apollo. Even though other flights on different airlines would be cheaper or faster, the American or United flights would be displayed first. Studies show that data is at the top of search results, and that's what usually gets clicked on first. Anything that shows up at the very top of your news feed, people or the top of your search results, that's what people want to click on first. They're not going to scroll down to like page 5 to find something unless they're like desperate. Automated loan advising software has also been known to discriminate against applicants who live in certain neighborhoods. This is known as redlining, or people that have ethnic surnames. This type of practice would be unethical at the very least and possibly illegal. Let's look at some other examples taken from Kate Crawford's article, The Hidden Biases in Big Data. And these examples demonstrate how the data studied can cause a skewed analysis. For example, before, during, and after Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast in October 2012, there were over 20 million tweets. If researchers only looked at the location for those tweets, they might think the area that was hardest hit by the hurricane was Manhattan, New York, because that's where most of the tweets originated. Higher concentration of population with smart technology. In reality, the areas most impacted didn't have power or signal capabilities to be able to post on social media. The data told a different story than the reality of the situation. Often, the data sets used in machine learning algorithms can contain bias or are not diverse enough to eliminate bias in the algorithm. Such is the case with facial recognition software. In many cases, the images used to train the software to learn to recognize faces were largely white males. When individuals who had dark skin were put before the camera, the system either didn't recognize their face as a face, or if comparing their image, it would inaccurately identify the person. So, why does algorithmic bias exist? I want to look at a few reasons why it may exist. First of all, algorithmic bias can be embedded in an algorithm as soon as the design begins. If designers aren't proactive about eliminating bias, or they don't recognize their own personal bias, it can be infused into the algorithm design from the very start. Another thing is that programmers may also intentionally or unintentionally code with their own personal bias. A third reason might be that data sets could include data from a certain gender, race, ethnic group, or socioeconomic group, which could lead to biased analysis. Finally, maybe one other reason would be that Unanticipated users or unintended audiences were not considered in the design of the innovation. So, how can we stop algorithmic bias? Here are a few ways as a society we can reduce algorithmic bias in technology. So we're going to go over 4 different ways we could stop it. Number 1, we could raise awareness. Just be mindful that algorithmic bias exists and be proactive to help eliminate it. Number 2, inclusion coding or encoding. Joy Buolamwini suggests that technology is created with a coded, quote, a coded gaze which reflects the views of whoever created the system. She urges programmers to create inclusive code which, quote, explicitly checks the impact of bias during the design, development, and deployment of coded systems, end quote. Third way we could maybe stop it is collaboration. Collaboration with a team of diverse individuals who bring different worldviews, educational backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, values, and goals will help to eliminate bias in systems. A fourth and final way, hold on, that's the bell. All right, sorry about that. A fourth and final way is inclusive data sets. Using data sets that are diverse and truly representative of the population instead of focusing on a certain group or excluding certain groups. Simply collecting more data, if it's the same kind of data, will not eliminate bias. So, in conclusion, technology should be beneficial for all, not just certain groups. Technology should be neutral and not reflective of the developer's opinions and biases. Can you think of any other ways that we could help eliminate algorithmic bias? Leave them in the comments. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I will catch y'all later.